Karwoski is an entrepreneur. He started his journey here at Northwestern with a master's in engineering, investigating arterial wave propagation and the effects of aging in arteries and cardiovascular health. That work proved instrumental in guiding his career. First, he served as the lead engineer and an early founder in Atrium Medical. There he developed biomedical products that included thoracic chest drains, synthetic arteries, and novel drug delivery systems. I had the privilege of visiting Ted there and appreciating his in-depth knowledge about every aspect of a company. He knew every intimate detail about every piece of equipment on a very big, vast floor. However, after Atrium was acquired, which is always a good and a bad thing, those who know Ted were not surprised to see that he wasn't content to sit still there and stay still. He has since moved to launch Bearpack Medical, a medical device company which has now focused primarily on pulmonary health and recovery and is set to launch in January. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome to the podium Ted Karwoski.
Graduates of 2018, I think this is a double lucky day for you. First, because you're here at graduation, and my keen sense of the obvious tells me that that means you graduated, or else you had absolutely nothing better to do on this beautiful morning. So most of all, I welcome and thank you, as well as everyone else who's played a role in getting you here today. Second, you happen to be here for a live TED Talk. Now, I'm sure you've heard at least one. Well, I've arranged to have one for you today because, you see, my name is Ted, and I'm here to give you my TED Talk. The subject of my TED Talk is me. I wrote it for you, but it's really all about me. The great news is no one's heard this talk before, so I'll give it a go and see how it works out. Like you, I graduated from the master's program at Northwestern in 1981. Back then, it took a couple hours to have your computer boot up and turn on. It took me a week to go to the library, research articles, find and explore new things that were being discussed, gather the information, and assimilate a problem. Today, it takes you a few minutes to do that on your phone. So I'm going to take a few minutes today to talk to you about some of the things that have had an impact on my life and how it might be of interest to you. And feel free to keep using your phones. It's a great way to take notes. And if nothing else, it's a good excuse to check in with your friends while this is going on. I love science and engineering. I love building things, I love researching things, and I love designing things. And my job for over 30 years was to build some of those things and have them work really well in the human body. They were there for repairing, replacing, and delivering therapeutics that I hope made a difference for good in many people's lives. Things like chest drains, covered stents to repair arteries, and drug delivery stents to deliver therapeutics. To get to do all those things, I had to leave my favorite city, a sweet job that I had here in Chicago. I had to ask my wonderful wife to marry me 3 times. I left a great home, great friends, and moved to the backwoods of New Hampshire. I was employee number 3 of a startup company there. It didn't seem exactly like a surefire opportunity for me at the time, but like many things that you will find out in your own life, it turned out to be one of the best things I have ever done. Just like me then, you are here today at the crossroads of your life. What you do over the next few years will set you on a path that someday, if you're lucky enough, you will be honored and asked to give a commencement speech and reflect on what difference your life has made in the world. It's pretty heady stuff. After receiving Dean Julio's invitation, I've been asking myself, what's the wisdom I can share with you that made me successful as a biomedical engineer? Pondering that question while walking down the dirt road I live on at Lake Winnipesaukee, New Hampshire, I heard a very loud woodpecker. It was going to town on a tree to look for some tasty meal of bugs and grubs, that rapid-fire burst of 15 to 20 pounds into the tree to drill it. How many of you have heard a woodpecker? How many of you have seen a woodpecker? How many of you have ever wondered about a woodpecker? Well, Leonardo da Vinci did. I'll call him Leo for short, since he was born the same year I was, albeit 500 years earlier. Leo was big on having a to-do list, and on one of them he wrote, while hanging out in Florence, Italy, basically, describe the tongue of a woodpecker. Walter Isaacson wrote in his description of the woodpecker's tongue in his biography of Leonardo, the tongue of the woodpecker can extend more than 3 times the length of its bill. When not in use, it retracts back into the skull, and its cartilage-like structure continues past the jaw to wrap around the bird's head and then curve down to the nostrils. In addition to digging out grubs from a tree, the long tongue protects the woodpecker's brain. When the bird smashes its beak repeatedly into tree bark, the force exerted on its head is 10 times what would kill a human being. But its bizarre tongue and supporting structure act as a cushion, shielding the brain from shock. Anyway, I think Mr. Isaacson was dumbing it down for the non-engineers in the world. The engineering behind the woodpecker's tongue is pretty amazing. The movement of the tongue, that is 3 times longer than its beak, triggers a system that slows blood flow back from the brain. The tongue-blood-brain swelling system effectively protects the woodpecker's brain from trauma and a force of over 1,000 Gs. That's 10 times the force that it takes to concuss a human brain and lead to death. The woodpecker does it 80 million times during its lifespan. A very impressive biodynamic brain injury protection system that is being utilized today by a new medical device used to slow blood flow back from athletes' brains and by creating a blood swelling effect, hoping to minimize brain motion and impact trauma. I'm wondering if that means that there's really a reason for these tight neckties that we all wear. Odd that whatever Leo observed, his curiosity about the woodpecker and its tongue was important enough for him to add it to his to-do list over 500 years ago. Fast forward from 15th century Florence, Italy, to today. Your time, here and now. You're a class graduating with, I hope, an appreciation of the whole brain engineering that Dean Attino is such an advocate of. Clearly, it worked 500 years ago with Leo in Florence. Paraphrasing Walter Isaacson, Leo's ability to combine art, science, technology, the humanities, and imagination remains an enduring recipe for creativity. So too was his ease at being a bit of a misfit. Illegitimate, gay, vegetarian, left-handed, easily distracted, and at times heretical. Florence flourished in the 15th century because it was comfortable with such people. Leo was lucky enough to be in the best place for him to flourish as a sculptor, painter, special effects expert, balanced by his love of engineering sciences. He was one of the earliest whole-brain thinkers. And I hope that you have been lucky enough, while you've been here at Evanston at Northwestern, that this has, for a very brief time, become your Florence. And you, like Leo, have been able to flourish here, learning and developing ideas that will interest you for the rest of your lives. An accepting, nurturing place produces less stress and hassles, more time to be creative and explore. Leo was able to be creative and explore and have an extraordinary balance of whole-brain thinking, asking questions and solving problems. Along the way, like someone else I know, he managed to paint a few pictures. So today, lessons learned from the woodpecker can be seen in the Q collar, approved in Canada and hopefully soon in the United States. By applying pressure to the backs of the jugular vein and triggering our omohyoid muscles, it reduces blood flow back from the brain, providing a very effective swelling and cushioning effect. Studies are indicating that it can be effective in minimizing head injury. As an engineer, don't forget that observation, curiosity, and problem solving can all come from something as simple as marveling about a woodpecker's tongue. Engineering is truly everywhere. So what should you engineers be interested and engaged in today? That question is way above my pay grade and intellect. But I do have some rules that I think can help you be a successful engineer. I have 3 of them that have guided me throughout my career. The first and most important is to tell the truth. My experience has shown me that telling the truth, first, foremost, and especially when people didn't want to hear it the most, was key to building integrity, community, and success, measured by one very important standard: love and respect. Love and respect of your colleagues, your classmates, your family, your friends, and as I am finding out now, especially my grandchildren. Second, explore. Leo was not afraid to explore anything. Just remember, in his time, strangely reminiscent of today, people were taught many things that were simply not true and that hampered their exploration and creativity. Things, for instance, of very little importance, like the world was flat. Some of the things that are happening today will be recognized in the very near future as just as ridiculous and unbelievable. Your responsibility as a whole-brain thinker is to challenge those old ideas and concepts. By doing so, you will expand and share your knowledge and explore and interact with the world around you in a more personal way. This brings me to my third and final rule of success. Throughout my career, I was dedicated to bringing people together as a team to solve problems. I challenge you to dedicate yourself to being more human. Dedicate yourself to use these incredible communication and knowledge-based tools to be more inclusive, more understanding, more caring, more present in your life. A long time ago, when I was your age, my college roommate, probably one of the smartest people I knew, used an expression that has pretty well summed up life as I thought I understood it. We had boarded a plane, we sat down, and a few aisles in front of us, there was this sweet old lady dragging her carry-on down the aisle. She was banging and bumping into everyone and everything. Watching her struggling, unable to lift the bag and put it in the overhead bin, my roommate said, "If you can't pick up the bowling ball, you don't go bowling." an apt description for so many situations people find themselves in when they either underestimate the task at hand or overestimate their ability. A truism of life, we named it. If you can't pick up the bowling ball, don't go bowling. I've used that expression countless times over the years, pointing out weaknesses in people's work and effort. But I've grown in my thinking and understanding of its true meaning. Using my whole brain approach, I now understand that the strength of the expression is really, if you don't pick up the bowling ball, you can't go bowling. I've challenged myself, and I now challenge you, to dedicate your lives to helping others pick up their bowling ball so they have the opportunity to go bowling. By helping others pick up their bowling ball, you expose them and yourself to new opportunities and solutions. In essence, you overcome weaknesses that separate and divide us as people. When we help each other, playing to our strengths, being a team, it's amazing what we can accomplish. In closing, one last thought. You're busy writing fresh new chapters of your lives. I'm working as slowly as possible on the closing chapters of mine. I would be remiss if I did not remind you, as others have said before me far more eloquently, that you're really only remembered for two things when you die: the love you shared and the positive difference you've made in the lives of people around you that you know. My hope and wish and non-technical advice for all of you is that you hold those two things dear each and every day of your life. Don't use texts and messages to guard your emotions, to become insensitive, to package your spontaneity, and sadly, measure out your commitments to each other. Instead, make personal connections. Surround yourselves with friends that you can talk with, hold hands with, and share your love with. Every now and then, try communicating the old-fashioned way, without your phone. If you do that, I assure you, you will be remembered for the positive difference that you have made to those around you. So there you have it, my TED Talk. TED, always tell the truth, explore our world, and dedicate yourselves to helping everyone pick up their bowling ball, and maybe, just maybe, you will become a better communicator, a better bowler, a better painter, a better engineer, and discover something even more amazing than a woodpecker's tongue. Thank you for listening, and good luck to all of you.